Hello, welcome to this presentation where we, students of Oklahoma State University, take you through this business case of predicting school dropouts and what it means in the larger picture. So before we begin, let's go through the team that has worked on this project, and all of us are grad students at Oklahoma State University, starting with Mudassir Ahmed, who is a student of electrical engineering, Daniel Contreras, myself, and Prithvi, and all of us are MIS students with some experience in data mining. So going through the agenda for the presentation, we want to know to begin with the objectives of this whole project and why do we need it and what is going to be the final outcome of it. And once we're done with that, we want to go through the methodology employed for this project, and after that we'll go through the scope of what is covered in the project and what is left out for future evaluation. Once we're done with this, we want to go through data preparation and exploration, which helped us present our models and evaluate them in a better way. And the next is modeling techniques, which were employed during the project, and results and assessment of the same. And moving forward would be the original vision versus the final product, where we try to see the differences in what we wanted to do and what we ended up doing, because that's always the learning curve. And after that is the future scope, because this analysis is evolving. We want to keep it getting better, so we'll discuss the future scope. And of course we have learned a lot in this project, so we want to discuss how we solved the problems and finally the lessons learned. Going ahead with why this study is of importance. School dropouts is a major factor contributing to negative life outcomes, unemployment, high crime rate, and high cost to the society. So let's look at some numbers. Going by one student dropping out of high school every 26 seconds, it amounts to around 7,000 a day. And let's extrapolate that to a year. The number is over 1 million dropouts. This is a huge problem, and it is definitely worthwhile investing time in the lives of these people. Let's try and look at it in a different point of view. Let's look at a monetary value assigned to these dropouts. So some studies have found out that a typical dropout, going by just tax numbers, can cost the state around $250,000. And let's extrapolate that to an entire year's worth of dropouts. The number is mind-boggling. It's over $200 billion. So from any yardstick, this is an important issue at hand, and this study is one of the first steps towards tackling it. And who's going to be the beneficiary? Quite obviously the students themselves. It readies them for a higher lifetime earnings, because intervention done at the right time can stop them from going down the wrong path. And the next beneficiary is probably the state, because they'll have higher tax realizations owing to the better lifestyles that these dropouts can eventually have. And above all, the society at large will benefit for sure. So moving on to the methodology that has been employed in this project ahead, we adopted the cross-industry standard process for data mining, which is also widely adopted and used for such projects involving knowledge discovery. So the CRISP DM is broadly divided into 6 parts, primarily understanding the business problem at hand and the data associated with it, because once you have that, it is easy to put your focus on the real issue and not get diverted. The next step is actually the data preparation part, wherein you make your data suitable for the modeling techniques that you want to employ them with. And the next stage is the modeling itself, where you employ models that are of use to you. And finally, when we have some comparable results, we do the evaluation and match them back with the business problem. And once everything looks all good, we move ahead with the deployment. So moving forward with the methodology described, I think it's imperative that we define the scope of this investigation at the very beginning, so that our efforts are quantifiable and they are in the right direction to begin with. So the first thing that we want to consider is the demographics, because there are different kinds of people, and we don't want to explore all types of types of them, but only a few. The next thing is we want to focus on people who are users of alcohol, and the other thing we want to focus on are the users of cigarettes. So now that we have a good grasp over the business problem at hand, let's go ahead with exploring the data and understanding more of it.
I'm Daniel, and I will be talking about the data preparation phase of this project. I will cover the 5 stages of the data preparation phase. On the data access and consolidation stage, we have the ICPSR consortium as our main data source, which publishes the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Data Archive every year. We use the survey for the year of 2013. We downloaded that dataset, which was on C-port format. We proceeded to convert that to a more usable SAS dataset format, and we created our target variable that is an computed value of aggregated variables such as the reason why someone left school and the age at which he or she did it. On the data reduction phase, we identify the scope of this study as the alcohol and tobacco related variables. We also identified some demographic information variables such as gender, age. Also, we had the available sex and age variables, which groups the sex and age for males and females into 6 groups. We eliminated irrelevant and redundant drug usage indicators, and we further reduced the scope of the study to cigarette usage instead of tobacco usage. Then we proceeded to eliminate from the analysis the variables which were used to compute the target variable, because they were going to be structurally related to the target. On the data cleaning phase, we identified that there were some variables, some nominal variables that had too many levels, and some of them could be combined, such as when someone refused to answer a question, or when someone didn't have an answer. We coded that to 0 to reduce the levels. We merged those levels, and we proceeded to identify those values that were outside 3 plus or minus 3 standard deviations from the mean, and they were removed from the analysis. On the data transformation phase, we identified that there were some variables that presented issues with kurtosis and skewness. So we proceeded using SAS Enterprise Miner. We used the maximum normal transformation, and it gave results as a different set of transformations, such as logarithm transformation, power transformation, and exponential transformation to different variables. Using both SAS Enterprise Miner and the Tableau software, we performed a series of descriptive activities in order to do the data exploration for this project. So here we have the initial interval variable summary statistics, which show the mean, max, mean, deviation, skewness, kurtosis. Some of the skewness and kurtosis issues can be seen here. The class variable summary statistics include now the replaced nominal variables, which for those that were grouped, the levels that were grouped. And we see that the H2 variable probably has too many levels. Fortunately enough, we have the sex-age group, which groups the sex-age variable, which groups age and gender into 5 categories, and this variable was more used during our analysis. The distribution of the target variable dropout has more than 95 of non-events. So even if we aggregated multiple variables to create a target variable with a larger number of positive events, we still detect the need of oversampling in our study. This bar chart shows the relationship between the consumption of cigarettes in the past 30 days, the dropout target variable, and the sex age group. So we see that in all cases of the sex age group, the average usage of cigarette is larger for those that drop out from school than for those who didn't. This bubble chart shows the relationship between some of the alcohol-related variables. And here we see that those that started drinking in their teenage years have a larger average of number of days when they had more than 5 drinks in the last 30 days.
Hi, I'm Mudassir Ahmed. I'll be discussing the original vision versus the final product of our project, scope that it holds in the future, approach adopted for the problems we face in the course of our project, and a few lessons that we all learned during the process. Let us proceed by discussing the original vision we had versus the final product. Our dataset initially had all kinds of drugs and tobacco products such as cocaine, heroin, snuff, cigars, rollover cigarettes, etc. Using all of these variables, we were planning to build a model which would start off by predicting if a person would indulge in substance abuse. Consequently, we would use this prediction as an input to another model which would predict whether the person would be a dropout or no. The design of such a model was difficult to build within our time restraints, so we reduced the scope of our project to variables involving alcohol and cigarettes, discarding all the other forms of tobacco. This change reflected in our final model, which now would bring together the variables that were related only to alcohol and cigarette, and then predict if a student would drop out from school or college depending on these observations. Let us now proceed to the scope that this project has in the future. The scope of our project can be further broadened by including all the other variables that were excluded during this project. This would help in determining a dropout, considering additional factors that might influence a person in dropping out. The data can be made available to organizations interested in creating awareness to students about substance abuse and in turn help the students to stay away from this evil. Also, our model was designed using the dataset obtained by a survey conducted in 2013. The very same model can be implemented and used to score data for datasets obtained from surveys conducted in 2014 and so on. Lastly, if the dataset is added with additional variables targeted at understanding the psychology of a subject, this project can further help rehabilitation counselors to deal with the subjects that end up indulging in substance abuse and/or are dropouts. Let us now discuss our approach towards a few problems encountered during our project. We did not have a target variable in the dataset that was downloaded from ICPSR. Hence, we had to create one, using which, if a person dropped out of school, he was coded as 1 and a 0 if he would not drop out of school. Also, as discussed earlier, the problem of a huge scope versus time restraints was solved by excluding tobacco variables except cigarettes. Since the data we collected is survey data, there are values for people who did not respond to the survey. Such values can create all kinds of problems in model building and also lead to an unstable model. Hence, all the values for people who did not respond are grouped into one category indicated by 0. Also, the target variable had 3% of cases for being a dropout and 97% of the cases of not being a dropout. This will lead to incorrect model estimates and hence oversampling is required. We performed stratified sampling using all the values for dropout is equal to 1 and equal number of values for dropout is equal to 0. The models thus built had a very low misclassification rate, as low as 3%, which is not the case in the real world scenario. Hence, we had to correct for oversampling and use prior probabilities to set the initial percentages of zeros and ones in the dataset. This led to getting the correct parameter estimates. Finally, some of the variables available in the dataset had high skewness and kurtosis values. Hence, we used max normal transformation to identify the correct transformation method and used it on the variables, such as log, power, exponential. The variables after transformation had lowered skewness and kurtosis values. Let us now discuss the lessons learned during the process of our project. We were able to comprehend the overall negative impact that substance abuse had on the society and the individual. We also realized that the primary objective of the project may be subject to change during the course of the project. We figured out that data preparation has high importance in the CRISP-DM methodology, and that good domain knowledge and business understanding is essential for the success of a project. Thank you for watching this presentation, and feel free to get in touch with us for any questions you have.